Hey Scorps, welcome to 8 of Cups Tarot. We are talking about the second half of March for you and what the hell's going on, Scorpio? I don't know what this mess is, but apparently you need some cleanup time. So let's talk about your astrology really quick, because the end of March is gonna get real interesting. So of course we've got a lot going on. We've got a spring equinox. We've got Sun moving into Aries. We've got Saturn moving into Aquarius. Mercury is moving direct. We still are working off of a full moon energy in Virgo, right up into the new Aries moon that will be arriving very shortly. There's so much transition right now. I think that a lot of people were sort of expecting this big kaboom with the conjunction, that things would change, things would fall apart, we would get over it and recreate our lives and move on. And instead, we are sort of stuck in this energy. It's like we're just not getting released. There's a dragging through the mud, a universe trying to really get you to see things. So, although I think we're at a culmination, point where the worst has probably already occurred. Now, I'm really talking about this on a sign to sign basis. When we talk about mundane astrology and we talk about how the collective is affected by the astrological energy, that is much different. And that has not culminated yet. But I think for all intents and purposes, Scorpio has experienced the catapulting stuff. And now it's just sort of getting back on your feet. But if you're unwilling to make the changes, then the more resistant you are, the harder it's going to be, Scorpio. And so there's a level here where you sort of have to let go and kind of admit defeat and do the growing up thing. So you now have Mars, Pluto, and Jupiter all meeting at a head in this third house where you've been going through all of these changes. And third house is a little tricky. Sometimes when you have third house transits, you don't have to deal with anything, and that's great. Sometimes your neighborhood goes through great changes, your neighbors, your short distance travel issues with cars, things like that nature. But when you have this kind of energy, I could promise you that there's a certain area in your life in which you're going to address it. And third house for you is your house of communication. It's your house of, it's how you think. It's how your thoughts create your reality. So, this is how things manifest into 3D. So as much as I want to tell you, oh, this third house thing, it's no big deal, but really it's a very big deal, because if there's an area in your life that you feel like you keep reliving the same story over and over again, it's because you're resisting change in the way that you think and go about doing things. Saturn is moving into your fourth house, and this can be an extremely jarring situation. And let me explain. Your fourth house is your home. It's who you are. It's your soul. It's your karma. It's your family. It's your sense of self and safety, and it is where you are most vulnerable. Saturn can bring delays. It could bring restriction, oppression, added responsibility, and the feeling that you really have to grow up. And this reading that I'm getting here is very much about somebody who is extremely resistant to grow up. So we'll be addressing that. Now, I'm going to be really careful when I say resistant to growing up, because I'm not picking up an energy of somebody who just quite literally wants to be a child the rest of their lives. It's just in the not understanding how you go about getting the big things, and that you have to truly believe in them. I think that's a lesson that Scorpio is really harnessing at this time. Venus and Uranus joining up in your 7th house is making you look at commitments and relationships and partnerships in a whole different way. This could work in so many different directions. You could quite literally meet somebody out of the blue. You can meet somebody very different from who you would normally be attracted to. You could meet somebody from another country, which could prove to be somewhat inconvenient at this time with quarantines and travel limits and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. But Venus and Uranus together strive for freedom. But because Uranus is in Taurus, I think we're getting a little bit of a different taste. It's like a different taste of the traditional, secure things. So where, Uranus in Aries or something could really shake up relationships and break them apart, and everybody just wants to be single, Independence is really important when it's in Aries. But in Taurus, I think it's a waking up of what you need at a very primal and secure level. What you need to feel safe, what you need to feel like you can survive and thrive. That's what's getting worked over for you in that 7th house. And it tells me that if you are with partners or people that don't excite you, that don't make you feel alive, well, then there's really no point to it. North Node is moving from your 9th house into your 8th house, and that's going to be a very big deal for Scorpios. First of all, it's a square energy, so there's going to be things in the next 18 months that you're really going to have to work through on a soul level in order to get to the next path, in order to open the next door that you're meant to open. When it goes from your 9th house of beliefs into your 8th house of transformation, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? The things that you used to believe in, the visions that you used to have, the way you thought your life was going to play out is up for a drastic change and a drastic rewrite. And I think all of the things you thought were important at one time begin to feel less important, and the things that are important now simply can't be denied. And the full moon in Virgo in your 11th house with Neptune in your 5th, there's something very whimsical about this setup for my Scorpios. Your 11th house is your wishes and your dreams coming true. Now, yes, it's a house of friendship and connection and groups, but I really like to look at my 11th house as the house of expansion. And it's so deeply rooted in that 5th house. That's why it's on the same axis, because the 11th house is what you manifest. And the really beautiful things that you manifest in your life are manifested from a place of your 5th house, where you feel creative and free and loving. the fifth house is just passion and joy. It is ruled by Venus. For you, the fifth house with Pisces and Venus, it's very romantic and whimsical. And so when you are in situations in which you feel that energy, in which things really let you lose yourself in the moment, there's sort of a fantasy world that Scorpios can build in their fifth house. And you could build fantasies about love affairs. You could build fantasies about even, sports and recreation. Scorpios are really great for having those fantasies in their head, like, a pivotal moment in a baseball game where somebody comes up and hits a grand slam and wins the World Series kind of fantasy level. And it is in those fantasies that you manifest the greatest things. So Pisces season for you is allowing yourself to go back into the dreaminess, into who you truly are and what you really want in life. And it's not at a level of what looks good on paper or what fits, those standards that you've held yourself at for your entire life. Like, all of that is changing now. Uranus is breaking you free from all of the limits that you set for yourself in the past, and it's opening you up to new ways and new opportunities. And so you have to realize that when the universe is prompting you, at times you just have to let go and let be. And that leads me right into this really beautiful reading, which I'm going to kick your ass a little bit, but trust me, we're going to get through this together. First card out. It's funny, I just did a reading for Virgo. I don't even really want to talk about it because it's a 45-minute reading in which my microphone did not pick up. And so there's no audio. It's been deleted. We'll make up for it. Mercury is still not... Well, it's direct, but it's still in its shadow, which I always find more frustrating than when it's actually retrograde. So I started these videos early, knowing it wasn't going to be hiccup-free. But I know the messages that need to go out will get out in the proper way. And so, Scorpio, you were calling to me, and there's a Scorpio moon today, and I thought, well, okay. Scorpio it is. First card out, completion. 2 readings in a row now. The first card out comes out sideways, which tells me that you are getting ready to break free of this energy. I feel like that wheel really wants to turn upright, but you're just not quite sure yet. And that's okay. That's okay, because the universe is going to make things really obvious. Really, really obvious in a way that can't be ignored anymore. Completion wheel is kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. Venus in Aries, that, I kind of look at that energy as kind of the ultimatum energy. Shit or get off the pot. What are you doing here? You can't stay in stagnant places, Scorpio. And when you have the Lust card in reverse, this is a card of the Sun in reverse. So it's like you've lost passion for something. You've lost the drive for something that you may have really believed in. And overall energy for the spread, bottom of the deck, is a 4 of Cups. And that's such an icky, icky, icky feeling, Scorpio. But I feel like you've been in it for a really long time. I just feel complacency. It's like the getting up in the morning and doing all the same things and trying. You're really trying. But you're trying in a very deliberate and forced manner. And so when you really love something, like say this is a job, you know, I think everybody knows that moment when you realize every day you get up and you do the same thing. It's like you could sleepwalk through your day and there's just no fire. There's no drive or energy or want, and there's no longer even the drive to fix it. It just is what it is, and it's never going to change, and we'll just keep doing this forever. That is the feeling of that Four of Cups. But there's always an element to me on the Four of Cups where the person is quite complacent with those 3 cups. It's like, okay, I got these 3 cups. It's not great, it's not good, but if I'm thirsty, they're there, you know? But there's a 4th cup that's being handed to you from the universe, and you don't see it. You don't even want to act upon it, which tells me that you are so operating at a level in which you're almost dead inside. I hate to say that, that's so extreme, but I've been using it a lot lately. There's almost a feeling of being dead inside, like you can't see the good of anything. It's very hard for you to find a way to be grateful within this energy, when really the ultimate and best thing that you could do for yourself at this time is to search for those little things to be grateful for. You know, even if it's the cup of coffee on your drive to work, even if it is something as simple as, you know, the whole week's gone to shit, but I tried this new eyeliner and I absolutely fell in love with it. And so this week was brought to you by a fantastic eyeliner. I know it sounds ridiculous, but focusing on the good, no matter how menial or far apart the good things are, the more you focus on it, the more you bring it. And that's really important. So, first of all, you've got 1, 2, 3 aces in this reading, and 2 of them are in reverse. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this Knight of Wands. Now, I'm not picking up too much on the energy of another person. If there is another person, their energy is just not affecting you at this time. And please understand, if you're a cross-watcher and you're cross-watching because you're not really understanding what's going on with your Scorpio this month, they're really lost in somewhat of a existential crisis, trying to figure out who they are and what they really want. And there may be a level of some real disconnect here. There may be a lot of distance in relationships at this time, and I would say let the Scorpio go and figure things out. Don't push, because I think in all of the feeling of complacency, you know, there's a danger in the when you have nothing to lose. So be really careful with Scorpios in your life right now, and let them come to terms with what they want and need, and don't push, because I think if you push a Scorpio, they're just going to tell you that they don't have the time or energy to deal with this anymore and write you off completely. And that's really just about the mindset that they're in. If you are a Scorpio who's feeling this way, I think that Knight of Wands, Ace of Wands, Page of Wands, I feel like this is a repeated cycle in which you see something that's beautiful and you run after it. It turns out to be an amazing opportunity, but then once you get it, once the opportunity is in your hands and you could do whatever you want with it, you lose interest. It is the lack of interest in anything past the conquering stage for you, which becomes an extreme challenge. You don't grab, you know, an Ace of Wands with a Page of Wands. Well, I mean, I guess you could. But it causes a lot of conflict. So Knight of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. So it is honestly an energy in which you're running after shiny objects, not willing to put work into things. And Knight of Wands is a player energy. So if you're a Scorpio who's dealing with someone who is giving you a player energy, they're not willing to work on this. It's never going to be anything more than that passion and lust, and therefore you're going to lose interest eventually anyways. Ace of Wands, Ace of Cups in reverse. It's like the selling of your soul for excitement. It's like the taking lustful situations because they're safer than having to invest actual emotions. There's something there. And then the Page of Wands, so it's like in the going after what you truly want, what turns you on, what makes you happy, what excites you at the moment, and then you go after it with a Page of Wands, a menial offer. You know, it's like approaching a queen and saying something like, hey, you want to hook up? No, a queen's not going to hook up with you, you know? She wants so much more than that, and you're treating it like it means nothing. You're treating it and giving and offering less than what the other person expects or deserves, and that is creating Five of Wands, major ego clashing conflicts, a lot of fighting, a lot of arguments, a lot of feeling the need to defend yourself. And then Ace of Swords in reverse is a lack of truthfulness. And, you know, Scorpios, I think sometimes in a lot of ways you get yourself in a cycle of having to tell the lies because you're ashamed or you're not honest with yourself. And there's a lack of bravery here, which is funny because all of this fire energy, right? Like the Knight of Wands, Ace of Wands, Page of Wands, Five of Wands. There's a lot of ego in this reading. And in a way, I see ego as what you use to protect your heart. Raccoon energy coming out on top. There's a mask that you wear to protect yourself. So maybe there's a layer of, if you don't ever have to grow up, if you carry that player energy, that Peter Pan energy, this is striking me as a very masculine reading in a lot of ways. But if you don't want to emotionally invest in relationships and you keep going after things that I think you know in your heart aren't for the long run, and even if you do kind of put on that act like, oh my God, I'm in love with this person, but you do know it's just a lustful situation, and you realize the risks that you're taking. You know that this will ultimately cause damage. I mean, people's lives will be affected. People's hearts will be broken. But it is in the inability to be vulnerable, to speak your truth, to ask for what you want and deserve. It's in that energy in which I think for a long time you felt safe operating in. Answer the call. What is your soul calling you to do? And the initiation, rite of passage, crossing of the threshold. And 2 of Scrolls in your Akashics, 2 worlds. This I want to read to you really quick, but this energy here is really amazing because I think in the realizing of all of this, I think in the growing up, that conjunction in your 3rd house, starting to understand why you do the things that you do, how you self-sabotage, how you sell yourself short, how by the energy that you bring into a situation, even though you go after it as a way of like conquering something, without the willingness to tear down the walls that you need to in order to take things to the next level, you just continually get stuck in this cycle of relationships or jobs that are not emotionally fulfilling whatsoever. And then you sit and you wonder for a long time, well, is there anything out there that's ever really going to call me, I'm really going to feel, that I'm really going to allow myself to fall in love? Am I really going to allow myself to get lost and to get really invested in something? The 7 of Pentacles in reverse, it's a lack of wanting to put in effort towards stability. This is major player action, approaching relationships as a player just to keep yourself safe. And I don't think that it's serving you in any way. And so I'm wondering if the universe isn't setting something in front of you or making you realize that there was something. Now, I'm not clarifying because this energy is so strong. I want to keep it general so that you guys could really understand and not pay too much attention to the details. Just understand the energy of it. But I'm wondering if the universe isn't setting something in front of you or making you look back on something that you did have that may have been, and in starting to understand, because I'm seeing with all the signs that we're getting pieces of this contrasting info. I think the universe is giving you a lot of opportunities to see things that you really, really like, but also opportunities to see things that you really dislike. And it's kind of the weeding through and the getting to know what you really do want. And I think that's the bigger mystery in all of us. What do we really want? Because Uranus and Taurus, you can't get any more instant manifestation, and that energy is about to come to a head. Aries season, the sun moving into your 6th house, your day-to-day rituals, your life is about to change. You're about to initiate some major changes and take back some control in your life. There's a level of independence. There's a level of, I'm not settling, because an Aries isn't going to settle. And an Aries is going to speak up for themselves. They're not going to accept player behavior from anyone else, that's for sure. So if you're a Scorpio that keeps attracting players or relationships to you in which the other person is not willing to be emotionally invested, well, then you have to look at yourself. And you have to figure out why you feel you don't deserve that. Why you feel maybe if you actually put yourself in a situation in which you wanted someone to emotionally invest in you as much as you're willing to emotionally invest, well, maybe that gets really scary, because what if they turn you down? What if there's a rejection? And so I think that this energy can keep you safe for a little while, but in the safety of all of it is loneliness. And I think my Scorpios are starting to realize that loneliness can be felt even when other people are around. And that loneliness is something that needs to be addressed within yourself and not found in the essence of others. So answer the call. What is your soul calling you to do? In times when we are lost and we don't see the light and we have to go within, we have to really get to know ourselves. And I think you know that in order to achieve the kind of relationship or the kind of success that you really want on a deeper level, the life-changing things, the marriage, the babies, the, moving to another city, the starting something new, the buying of a home, whatever the next level is for you, you have to believe in your heart first that you deserve it, that you're deserving of it, that you have what it takes, that you can sustain it. And so there's a level in which you have to understand you have to trust yourself. And until those situations are cleared out, the initiation, the rite of passage, and the crossing of the threshold, until those things within you are addressed and worked out and talked about and communicated, unless you are fully aware of what you want and need that's going to get you to the next level, you're going to continue. Every person you meet is going to fit this scenario. Everyone you invite into your life is going to come in this extreme passion and romanticism, and then it's going to fizzle out and you're going to be bored because it didn't serve who you truly are and you weren't willing to be vulnerable enough to admit what you need. And that Wheel of Fortune really wants to turn over, Scorpio. It really wants to. But you have to find your inner fire. And you have to raise that vibration. And you have to ask for the things that you want. And you have to ask Spirit right now. You have to ask and have faith that the universe will provide for you exactly what you deserve as soon as you're ready. And you cannot grab the next opportunity and act as if it doesn't matter. You can't treat things that matter like they don't matter. You can't pretend you don't care about somebody or something when you really do, and then be sad when it walks out of your life. And you can't continue to not care or act like you don't care about people that you care very much about, and then become a martyr when they walk out of your life because they want somebody who really loves them, who really makes them feel seen. So, Scorpio, I think this is the end of playing it safe for you. 2 of Scrolls. Let's take a look at this in the Akashic records. Something led me to pulling this deck. I don't use it very often at all. But I think now really is such a karmic time. The Jupiter, Pluto, Mars going over all of the past couple months of eclipses and everything that's been happening. I mean, it really is a karmic time, and it is really a time where the universe is testing you. You might be distracted. I mean, you could very well be emotionally in love with someone else, and the universe keeps setting people in front of you just to see. Are you devoted? How much work are you willing to put into this person that you love? Are you going to make the sacrifices? Are you going to not hit on that person or just see with your ego how far you could push it? That you're going to protect what you love and treat it well. Two of Worlds. Surrounded by a spinning wheel and baskets of wool, a beautiful woman, worried and tired, gazes at the embers in the fireplace. She has worked hard at her spinning for the coins that are gathered on the table. The expansive window behind her looks out onto a Buddhist monastery high in the mountains. When you receive this card, there is a conflict in your life between what the outer world requires of you and how your own spirit directs you. You actually may have had a number of past lives where you wanted to focus on your spiritual growth and therefore joined a monastery to do so. Then, missing the wonders that the secular world could offer, such as love, family, and financial success, you chose the secular world exclusively in your next incarnation. Yet this didn't offer the spiritual focus you also sought. Because of this, it is likely that you bounced back and forth from the monastic to the personal in a number of incarnations and through a number of different faiths. You are now again experiencing a polarity between a fully self-realized spiritual experience and personal success in your day-to-day life. It often feels as if you have to let go in order to embrace the other. This push-pull will continue until you learn to bring your spiritual self to every situation in your personal life. It's time to replace worry with trust and integrate your eternal truth with your temporal reality. If you have a job or are in a relationship that actively pulls you from your spirit, you must deal with it or possibly leave it. Who you are forever is who you are now. Let nothing impede that power. When you own it, absolute self-realization in both worlds will elude you no longer. Man, I just love it when Spirit pulls it all together in one awesome flippin' card. That's it, Scorpio. Either you feel like there is a choice between lust and love and you can't have them both, and that very much needs to be addressed. What is meant for you is fulfilling in every way, and that is exactly what you deserve. And so you need to figure out if whatever situation this is, if it truly doesn't have the potential to fulfill you in all of those ways, if you feel distracted, if you feel complacent or like you don't care, then walk away from it and fix yourself. And don't settle. Don't settle unless something offers you everything that you want and need and it feels like home. Saturn in Aquarius in your 4th house means you will no longer be able to settle for anything that does not feel like home. It's a really profound reading, Scorpio. Be kind and gentle with yourself. It could be a rough roller coaster of a couple of weeks, but just know that you're coming out on the other end of it in a much better position. Hearts may be broken, but you will be on your path. I will see you in April, Scorpio. Bye.